Florida Maquis, you need to stop talking about things that make me feel uncomfortable. We really enjoy it when you talk about Antarctica, or sometimes you even read Bible scriptures, but you've shown pictures of girls at the beach in Florida, and even worse, you've directed people over to your Patreon channel where you've shown things even more controversial than that. That has to stop. I already have my mind made up about what's going to happen when shit hits the fan, or without rule of law, end of the world as we know it. All the sanitized channels here on YouTube have already informed me of everything I need to know. And they haven't made me uncomfortable in the least. So you need to fall in line. I like thinking inside the box. I don't want to think outside the box. This is how I want to live my life. That's basically a synopsis of most of the comments that I get on a daily basis. Well, head in the sand doesn't work for the Florida Maquis, not in the least. Heaven has no rage like love to hatred turned, or hell a fury like a woman scorned. See, there's a lot of prepper channels out there. There have been for years. And they, of course, talk about beans and bullets and Band-Aids, and they go out and they do their tactical camping events, and they watch their cartoons, and they chop down little trees, and they make their little shelters, and they learn how to make fire and boil water and reconstitute dried beans. Sometimes they even go to the range, pop some tin cans off hay bales. And they think they're ready. They think it's going to be a zombie apocalypse, or it's just going to be a bunch of shambling, slow zombies. That's all they got to worry about. That, and just, once again, eating up their dried food, making up their shelters. And guess what? It ain't going to be anything like that. Over at Patreon, we tell the real story. We show you what the real problem is going to be. It's $1 per month. I know people that have spent thousands on dried beans. It's even less than that if you sign up for a year. And once again, if you go there, you watch the 7 most recent videos that we've done over the last month, and it ain't for you, you can inbox me over there and say, it's not for me. My preconceived notions I'm just going to live with. Can I have my $1 back? Sure. Absolutely no problem. And I can sum this up for you in one image, what the real problem is going to be. You ready for this? This is going to be the real problem. Now, those of you who are Walking Dead fans know immediately what you're looking at. Those of you who haven't watched The Walking Dead, this is from the first season. And you have the same girl sucking face with 2 different guys. See, she thought this guy was dead, and so she took up with his partner. They were policemen together. And it caused all sorts of issues. All kinds of problems. Now, they made this out to be a lot less than what it usually would have been in the real world. But in today's video, I'm going to break this down. I'm going to break this down and throw out some scenarios out there. And let's see how many people recognize the scenarios. All of the basis of the problem can be avoided if you understand the 24 logical fallacies and the 24 cognitive biases. The 3 specific ones that we're going to talk about today: just world hypothesis, fundamental attribution error, and self-serving bias. Now let's go back to our survival group here. Within a survival group, there are different power and social dynamics that occur. You add stress into the situation and they become more pronounced. There are groups that are going to focus more on one aspect of survival than another. And the end result's going to be very different. Some people think that they're going to cover every single base and they're not going to have any weaknesses or vulnerabilities. That's just, well, ignorant, because each group is going to have its own different set of demands. People have different needs. Let's take, for example, this character from The Walking Dead. This was, of course, Andrea, the actress Laurie Holden. Here's the hypothetical scenario I would like everyone to close their eyes and imagine. Let's say Rick up here represents your group, and the guy sitting here, the governor, represents another group. And you've run short of something that he has plenty of, and vice versa. You have something that he needs. So you think, okay, well, we're going to go and we're going to try to sit down and we're going to make a negotiation. Try to trade up even Steven. Well, what if the guy sitting there makes the calculation that you need what he has more than he needs what you have, and he decides to play hardball? Now, you wouldn't necessarily think that would happen. Why? Well, it's called the just world hypothesis. Because you prefer a just world and everything should be fair, and that's how things should go. That would be your initial assumption. So when the guy plays hardball, you walk off in a huff, and you're like, no, screw it. We'll find some other way. Well, what if that thing that your group needs is a lot more important to another person in the group? Let's say it's antibiotics for just one example here. And let's say this particular person over here has more of a need for the antibiotics than you do personally. Let's say they're sick, or maybe a loved one of theirs is sick, and you've run short of those antibiotics. You see, they have more of an interest in making this negotiation happen than you do. So now there's this weird dynamic going on in your own group. Let's say then this person decides to go behind your back and renegotiate the terms, so to speak, over a beverage. And of course, one thing then leads to another thing. That person gets the antibiotics, returns to the group, and all hell breaks loose when it is revealed what exactly happened. Now, those of you who are shaking your head and laughing, think critically about this. People will do whatever they need to do to serve themselves. That's where the self-serving bias comes in. You see, we always perceive our failures as external, but our successes as internal. So now all of a sudden, you've got drama to deal with because you decided to play hardball on a negotiation because of your just world hypothesis. See, all this can happen from one incorrect decision. This entire chain of events that can lead to drama. This happens in the modern world, and it will happen then, but when it happens then, it'll have real-world consequences in a way that'll be immediate. Just world hypothesis, world is fair. Self-serving bias, success internal, failure external. Fundamental attribution error, the one thing we didn't talk about. The fundamental attribution error states, you judge others on their character, but yourself on the situation. Now, you ready to have your mind blown? Are you ready to have your mind blown? You see down here in the lower right, this particular person is angry with this person because they believe some lack of character led to all of these events. What would happen if you flipped all the genders here? Let's say the leaders of the two groups were women, and this was a guy standing here. And then the guy decided to go romance this person. One thing led to another, and then came back. Would the judgment be the same? Ladies, would you judge that guy and go, oh, wow, that's just horrible. That's just horrible. I mean, if it was me, of course, I would have done it. if it was me or my loved one and they needed the antibiotics. But if that other person would have done something like that, oh, no. That's just a lack of character. They're just not Christian enough. They need more Jesus in their life. That would be the response. Ask me how I know. Just world hypothesis, fundamental attribution error, and self-serving bias, all wrapped up in a neat little package that was covered in the first 3 seasons of The Walking Dead. It's just that simple. Would you like to know more? Would you like to know more about psychological operations? About how being in control of your mind is going to matter? About how teaching those within your survival group to be in control of their mind? Why that's going to matter? See, things will snowball. Things will start to roll downhill fast. Once division starts happening within your group, there's another question that nobody even asks. So let's say, in our scenario here, this guy decides to give up the antibiotics for a roll in the hay. What about the people in his group? What about the people in his group? You think they're going to be toasting his decision? They're going to say, let me get this straight, Governor. We had this huge supply of antibiotics that could have taken care of everybody, but you gave it up for one roll in the hay? Who's going to have the bigger problem? The governor, who has to deal with an entire group of people questioning his judgment, or her having to deal with the ego bruise of one guy in their group? This is real, and it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about. You need to sit down with your group and have some real, honest discussions. And those who start to make jokes and those who start to laugh and say it's not relevant and they want to go to the range and they want to go stockpile more beans, bullets, and Band-Aids and they want to practice this, that, you're going to know who you can count on and who you can't real fast. Heaven has no rage like love to hatred turned, or hell of fury like a woman scorned. It ain't going to be a cartoon. It ain't even going to be a series. People watch these and they look right through the real stories for the exciting parts. They don't like to sit and think about what could possibly happen in the uncomfortable parts and how that could affect things. Last thing you might be worried about is gathering vines to make a little tripod teepee looking shelter thing. It's going to be the last thing on your mind. I'll leave it there. God bless. Like, share, subscribe. Join us over at Patreon. $1, $1 per month. Less than that if you sign up for a year. It's like 90 cents. And once again, take a look at the content. Just watch and listen. Don't like it? Unlike YouTube, you can inbox me over there and say, not for me. Can I have my $1 back? Not a problem. I've done it for many people. People have shown up over there who have just clutched their pearls so hard that they just couldn't handle seeing the images that will wake them up to what the real problems are going to be. Thank goodness we have Vimeo so that we can talk about things like this. Once again, like, share, subscribe. God bless everyone. Pray for each other, lift each other up. And as always, keep your head on a swivel. And we will see you guys tonight on Twitch.